Hey guys, it's Natalie here again for my second YouTube tutorial of all time, and I think this week I may have figured out how not to chop off the top part of my head on the video, and also potentially figured out how to improve the sound quality, so we're making progress. This week I want to share with you two techniques that you can add on to your Nadi Shuddhi practice, your alternate nostril breathing practice, that's going to help you deepen your pranayama. And so we're going to build on the fundamentals and the basics that I covered last week in my Nadi Shuddhi tutorial. So if you haven't already checked that out, please go back and watch it so that you are familiar with the fundamentals of alternate nostril breathing. Let me introduce you to the first technique. Step one, we need to count the length of our inhalation and our exhalation using a metronome. Why do we need to do this? Well, if you think about the definition of pranayama, pranayama is the conscious controlling and extension of prana, which is our life force energy, contained within the breath. So pranayama, on a gross level, we're looking to control and consciously extend the breath. Well, how do you know if you've been able to extend your breath? You need a way to measure the length of your breath now and then compare it to the length of your breath at some point in the future. And for this, we're going to use a metronome. Now, don't worry if you don't have one of those wooden pyramid metronomes. I have one because I used to play the piano a lot when I was younger. But nowadays, I find it much more convenient to use an app on my smartphone. So I have this app called Soundbrenner, which was free from the App Store. Sorry about the smashed screen there. And so now I'd invite you to pause the video and go and just download any old free metronome app to your phone. And when you come back, we'll set the metronome to 60 beats per minute, 60 BPM. And for Nadi Shuddhi, which is what we're practicing today, we will always keep the metronome on 60 BPM. So the length of our breath will get longer over time, but we will always measure it relative to 60 beats per minute. Nadi Shuddhi will not be effective if you inhale left for 7, exhale right for 10, inhale right for 20, exhale left for 5, because you can see that you're spending an unequal amount of time on one nostril to the other. So that means you're either stimulating your parasympathetic or your sympathetic nervous system more than the other, which means it will lead to imbalances. So with Nadi Shuddhi, it's all about balancing the systems. So we want to spend an equal amount of time on the lunar, the left side, as the solar, the right side. So let's figure out what our breath count is. So we're going to take our metronome and place the metronome on 60 beats per minute. Like this. And then do one full round of Nadi Shuddhi, counting your inhalation on the left, your exhalation on the right, inhalation on the right, exhalation on the left. You can do it a few times just to get a feel for the kind of lengths that you're getting for your breath. And what you'll notice straight away is that one of them is much longer than the others, one of them is much more constricted and more challenging to breathe through than the others. This is totally normal, so don't worry. But Nadi Shuddhi will help you to smooth off and equalize these imbalances. So let's say that you inhale left for 6, exhale right for 5, inhale right for 6, and exhale left for 6. So you've got 5, 6, 5, 6, or whatever I said. You want to then choose the lowest number of your 4 numbers to use as your breath count, because you don't want to overstrain your breath by trying to do 6 on every side. So go for the lower number so that you don't strain or agitate your nervous system, and then use that as your official Nadi Shuddhi count. You would then count as you're practicing Nadi Shuddhi with your metronome on, like so. Let's say your count is 5. Inhale left, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale right, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, 2, 3, 4, 5, left, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So each inhale, each exhale on both the left and the right side of your nose have the same exact number of counts. So now you have your breath count for Nadi Shuddhi. Let's say, just as an example, that it's 5 seconds. So you can stick to this breath count as long as you like, until you start to feel like your breath needs a little bit longer. Like maybe you have a lot more breath left in your lungs and you feel that you need to exhale more, or you feel like you could really expand a bit more into your lungs on the inhale. Then that's an indication that you're ready to add only one, to your breath count. Now we're going to add in the second technique of the tutorial, which is known as digital counting. And when I say digital, I don't mean on a technological device, although we're still going to be using our app, our Metronome app. When I say digital, I mean these digits. Instead of counting the number of your breaths in your head with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're actually going to use our digits instead. Why bother? I hear you cry. Well, very simple reason, and the reason is that numbers as a meditation object, something to focus on in your practice, they are not a suitable meditation object. And what I mean by that is, when you think of numbers, we tend to associate them with things like money and wealth and more stuff and more things, and those kind of thoughts are not conducive to the spiritual practice of yoga. Learning from Gregor Maehle, he says that numbers are rajasic. That means they make your mind excited and agitated and fired up, which is not what you really want from a Nadi Shuddhi practice. Well, it's not the reason I practice Nadi Shuddhi. I practice Nadi Shuddhi to calm my nervous system and bring my left and right nadis into balance so that I can experience a more harmonious state of well-being. And so we need something else to focus on when we are doing our Nadi Shuddhi practice, instead of counting numbers in the head. So we'll use instead our fingers, our digits, to count the numbers. Using our example before, where you have a breath count of 5 seconds, that means that you need to count to 5 on your digits. So with your other hand, you remember you're using your right hand to close off your left and right nostril. With your other hand, starting with the thumb touching the index finger, the top of the index finger, we're going to snake our way down the first finger and up the middle finger, counting 1 on each pad of the finger. So let me show you what it looks like for a count of 5. So we start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we go back to the first finger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of course, depending on how long your breath count is, you will need to extend the little snake up your hand further. So let's say your breath count is up to 9 seconds. This would look like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then when you reach here, you would go back to 1, 2, 3, etc. So we snake our way down the first finger, up the second finger, down the third finger, and then up the fifth finger. Fourth finger? Fourth finger. So let's try and put those things together. So using the metronome for the counting and then also the digital counting on the fingers. So metronome on 60 beats per minute. So that was one round. So as you saw, I was using the right hand just as we did before to close off the nostrils, and then I was using my left hand to count up the fingers. And every time, in this example, we're on the breath count of 5. So every time I reached the 5th pad of the finger, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every time I touch here now, I know it's time for me to go to the other side. So inhale left, exhale right. Inhale right, exhale left. So rather than waiting for the number 5 to come up, the trigger to switch sides is now whenever I touch this pad of the finger. Now I know what you're thinking. Even though we've switched to counting numbers on our fingers, we're still saying them in our head, right? I bet you're sat there going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, which is normal. And so what we need to do, instead of pronouncing numbers in our head, because remember, numbers are rajasic, they make us think of things that we don't want to be focused on during these spiritual practices, like money and wealth. And so what we're going to replace those numbers with is a mantra. And the easiest mantra to begin with is the mantra Om. So instead of saying numbers in your head, every time the metronome clicks, I'll now invite you to try pronouncing the mantra Om. You can say it out loud to begin with if you like, or you can say it in your head. So let me show you using our example from before with a breath count of 5 seconds. So we'll place our metronome on 60 beats per minute. Hand in Shankar Mudra, other hand ready for digital counting. And let's go. Om, 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 Om. So that was one full round of Nadi Shuddhi, 5-second breath count using digital counting, and a mantra, the mantra Om. So if your breath count is a bit longer, then obviously you would just do exactly the same, but continue to pronounce Om until you reach the relevant finger pad. So if your breath count is 9, Om, 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 and then start again, Om. And that's pretty much it. The reason that these techniques are so powerful for your pranayama practice is that they start to incorporate elements of meditation into pranayama. So instead of just allowing your subconscious mind to do other things whilst you're doing your Nadi Shuddhi practice, you choose a meditative object. Here we're choosing a mantra, a sacred mantra. We use those mantras to focus our subconscious mind on something more appropriate. And that meditative object can be any number of different things. Here we're using the mantra Om. And what we will do next time in another tutorial is we will replace that mantra with 2 separate mantras, one relating to the lunar nadi, the left cycle, and one relating to the solar nadi, the right cycle. We'll also use a visualization. That means visualizing an image in your mind during each cycle. And what these different techniques are starting to do is draw the subconscious mind in. It's a form of pratyahara, or sense withdrawal. So we're giving our mind so many things to do, so many things to focus on. We've got the visualization for the visual sense. We have the mantra for the auditory sense. We have the digital counting, and so on and so forth. There are many different elements you can add to this practice, each of them preventing the senses from reaching outwards and instead turning them all inwards to help power a deep meditative practice. So that's it for today, yogis. I hope this tutorial was useful. You can probably tell this is one of my absolute favourite practices. And the reason is because I found these techniques so powerful. They've really, really helped to deepen my understanding of yoga and the mind and the body and the spirit. And I'm so passionate about sharing them with people because, yeah, they have helped me so much. So check back next week and I will introduce you to a few more of those little techniques to help incorporate the pratyahara, the sense withdrawal, into your practice. That's it for today. Please subscribe to my channel. I think I have like 3 people on there now. And if you'd like to read the blog post that goes with this tutorial, then just head over to my blog, ashtangayogagirl.com. And I will see you here again next week. Namaste.